A lot of beginners think that when it rains, they look around, they see all these trees, they see all this deadfall with water all over it, and they think there's no dry wood out here. But there's a bunch of dry wood out here. You just need to know where to look for it. And you'll look for it inside of that stuff you thought was wet. Hey YouTube, Joe Bassett for Valiant Outfitters here with another Wilderness Wednesday. A lot of beginning campers and backpackers and bushcrafters struggle with their fire when conditions are damp or wet. Now it looks pretty sunny here in northeast Florida today, but just yesterday we had quite a bit of rain. And this is an excellent opportunity for me to show you some tricks for starting and keeping your fire going in wet or damp conditions. If wood hasn't been submerged in water, if it's dead standing or dead leaning, or even just on the ground and part of it is up off of the damp ground and out of the water, there's dry wood to be had there. You just need to mine for it and harvest for it. What do I mean by that? You use your trick of batoning. Wood isn't like a sponge that's just going to soak up the water right away. It has to be immersed in water for a long time before it's wet. A lot of people go to start a fire and they get a lot of smoke and they say, oh, that wood is wet. Usually what they mean is that wood didn't die very long ago. It's young wood. It hasn't seasoned. It hasn't cured. So that moisture that's inside of it is still really just sap and that natural moisture that was in it from when it was alive. So when you're harvesting your wood, when it's been raining or it still is raining and you have all that water on the outside, to harvest or mine that dry wood inside, we use that trick of batoning that I've talked about in other videos. Batoning is a very simple trick. You're just going to use your knife. You can use an axe or a hatchet for this. And you set your wood vertically on a solid surface, usually one of wood, because you don't want to be batoning into the ground because it's just going to drive the wood down into the ground, or on a rock because if you slip through, you're going to ruin that great edge that you have on your knife. So you take that wood and you stand it vertically, put your knife holding that wood on top, and go ahead and get the handle as close as you can to that wood. Then you're going to take another piece of wood and you're just going to hammer or baton down through and split that wood open. Inside of there, you've got dry wood. You can keep doing that and get it down to kindling size. Another great result of batoning like this is now I've created really nice edges to do some feather sticks. Another tip that will help is I use some of that wood that I batoned to make a little bed to get that fire up off of the damp ground. A lot of people don't realize that even if you have all the dry wood in the world, you've got good tinder, good kindling, your fuel wood is ready to go, it's all dry, you've processed it properly, you get your fire lay down and you light it up, and then that fledgling fire just dies back out. What may have happened is that as that ground heated up from the fire, it started wicking and pulling moisture up. That moisture started to evaporate up through it, and it extinguished your fire. If you can elevate your tinder and your kindling, get that fire lay up off of the ground, then you're going to help avoid water evaporating, moisture wicking up from the ground through your fire, and then extinguishing your fledgling fire that you've worked so hard to get. Another thing is I always carry fire starter with me. Whether it's this that's from Campcraft Outdoors, this is their torch fire starter. I'll give you a link where you can order that. Or you've harvested fatwood, which you know is my favorite here in the south, or white birch bark up in the northeast. Whatever it is, have some of that fire starter with you. That's going to give you a big advantage. You also know that I usually carry a Bic lighter with me. Well, I'm not going to demonstrate with the Bic lighter. I'm going to go full bore on this, and we're going to use a ferro rod. Not a big ferro rod, the one that you've seen me use before. It's just a little Boy Scout ferro rod that I keep on my key ring for emergencies. Of course, when I'm out camping or bushcrafting, I carry a full-size ferro rod, but I'm going to use this one for a demonstration. So let me get our tinder ready to go. I have our kindling here, and I've staged it out to keep it up off of the damp, wet ground. I've put it on my haversack. Again, this is a haversack that I got from Campcraft Outdoors. I'll give you a link for that as well. And that keeps it nice and dry while I'm getting all of this set and ready to go. I'll process this fire starter, get my kindling ready to go, and we'll light a fire, even though all the wood looked like it was wet. I have my tinder bundle there, just finishing up processing that fire starter down to tiny little fibers. Put that into my tinder bundle. And let's strike up that ferro rod, get this fire going in this damp weather. Now, fire likes chaos. So in this early stage when I'm going to my kindling, I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep about how I put that kindling on there. I'm just going to let it be chaos, but I want it to be a gentle chaos. I want to do it carefully so that I don't smother that fire. But the chaos also provides all these little chimneys for air to get up through and keep that fire going. I might even just hold it up off of the fire a little bit to let that air get in through there. Now it might struggle a little bit at the beginning because there is water on the outside of that wood, but there's plenty of fire there that will dry that water off. It'll evaporate and that'll take care of your kindling. I should have mentioned earlier that when I harvest my kindling, I also look for that on standing dead or leaning dead or just things that are up off of the ground, and I gather as much of that as I can. We'll keep feeding this. I'm up to about pencil size now, so let's put on a little bit of magic marker size. It's at this point that I can start to think about structure. I'm going to use a teepee, which is what I normally do, and that's with my larger kindling, that matchbook size. Of course, I harvested some of that transition from kindling up to fuel wood by using that batoning, keeping with my teepee idea. As I get to a stronger fire, I can use a log cabin style of structure now just to get that wood dry. Start to surround that fire with wood that still may be wet. I didn't have a chance to baton down. I can get that around there in a log cabin style. And continue to build that up. Pretty damp conditions out here today, even though it's sunny. We had that rain yesterday. And there are some tricks to getting that fire started when you're in those adverse conditions with damp or wet wood. This is Joe Bassett for Valiant Outfitters. Thanks for joining me for another Wilderness Wednesday. If you found this video to be helpful, please click that like button. Or subscribe and click notifications so you see every time I come out with another tip for Wilderness Wednesday. Get outside this weekend. It's impossible to be outside and in a bad mood at the same time.